Yo friends, it's Dan. Welcome back. Welcome to another plastic miniature review, or reviews, as is the case here. We've got three unique sets from HaT's medieval El Cid range, their 28mm scale range. And I want you to know up front, this is sponsored content. HaT sent these to me to review for you guys. So I'm very grateful to them for doing that so I can get this information out to the community. I'll be honest with you, I've recorded this like 8 times because there's just so much information to get out here in the disclaimers at the beginning, but let me try my best. So first of all, I'm doing this as a triple feature for a number of reasons. Firstly, because I thought that these sets are all reasonably straightforward, comparatively simple in terms of the number of bits. They're all technically multi-part, but I didn't think any individual review was going to take particularly long, and thought that it would be easier just to have the information all in one place. And likewise, because these are all from the same El Cid range, so we're talking about medieval Spain, North Africa, like current day Morocco, I thought it would be interesting to see these sets side by side, especially when we move into the build kit bashing phase that I like to do. It would be interesting to see how much compatibility there is between these sets in particular. And also, if you're watching these in real time, we've done a double feature in the past, but I've never attempted something like a triple feature before, so I wanted to trial the concept out in advance of maybe a big upcoming video. Hint, hint. So these are sprue reviews because I don't have the full boxes of any one set, but that's okay, because if you were to pick up any of these 3 boxes, you're going to get 4 copies of that sprue within that box. So once again, we're looking at the 28002 Spanish Light Infantry over here on the left. In the middle, we've got the 28005 Andalusian Heavy Infantry. And then on the right, 28008 Almoravid Light Infantry. So as I said, it's going to be 4 copies of these sprues if you pick up any one of those boxes for 32 miniatures in total. And I've said in all of my HaT reviews, I'll repeat again here too, that I don't like to talk about value. I'll talk about price, but value's up for you to decide. I'm just going to present the information. But something to keep in mind as we go through these sprues is that HaT deliberately, they've made a conscious choice to make their miniatures comparatively simple. Like the detail is going to be a little bit softer than what you might expect from, like, say, a War Games Atlantic or a Victrix. From their medieval ranges. However, these are going to be very easy to put together in paint. That's again a conscious choice from HaT. And also, you really need to pay attention to the per model price here, because for all 3 of these, I looked at a bunch of different sources. We're talking about like $13.50 for the box. And again, a box is going to have 4 copies of these sprues for 32 miniatures for any one of these boxes if you were to pick them up. So like less than 50 cents per model. So something to keep in mind as we're going through these reviews here, especially as we're picking out some of the details. And then, if you're new here, welcome. The progression of these videos is that we're going to go through each of these sprues in detail. I'm going to show you all the details up close. There are some bits to go over, so we'll go over those as well. We're going to assemble these figures. I'm going to do some kit bashing between them. I'll see if I can bring in some bits from some other manufacturers, see how they scale up. And then on the topic of scale, we'll do some proper scale comparisons with some other manufacturers in my collection. And then I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. So I want to move through these sprues numerically here, but I guess the last disclaimer I want to make in my long line of disclaimers is that I did have a couple things break in transit, but that's okay for a number of reasons. One is that HaT's a wonderful company to deal with, so if you have any issues, just reach out to them. However, I also want you to know that I don't think this is typical. Like, I've also picked up like some of their 1/72 scale stuff in stores before, and I've never seen anything break before. I actually think this is a result of what I've talked about in other videos, that HaT, you can't buy anything direct from HaT. They sell everything through third-party retailers, which is really cool. I've said as well that I find that really charming, that you can't buy from, because there is an inherent conflict of interest there of selling direct to consumer and selling through third-party like brick and mortar stores. But it also means that I don't think they have infrastructure in place to send boxes out to individuals like they did in this case for me, let alone individual sprues. Because I'll just tell you freely that like the box that came in the mail was from HaT, but it was like a repackaged Amazon box. As I said, I think they're used to shipping out like pallets of boxes to larger companies, right? They don't really have any kind of logistics in place to just send some individual sprues to individual people. So I think that's more what this is a reflection of, not of what you're going to get if you pick up the boxes for yourself at a store. Let's go through these sprues in detail. I'm going to move through them numerically, I think. So this is once again 28002 Spanish Light Infantry. And once again, if you pick up this box for yourself, about 13, 14 bucks US, depending on where you get it, you're going to get 4 copies of this sprue for 32 total miniatures. These are all hard plastic, if I didn't make that clear, that this is going to be much more akin to like your War Games Atlantic kind of plastics, even though these are a cream color. But you can see I can't bend any of these at all, compared to some of like the soft plastic 1/72 scale stuff that you might be used to from HaT. And I got to tell you too, this whole range, this 28,000 series, we looked at their Prussians and their French from the Napoleonic range in that last double feature we did. And these are, to my eye, we'll do some proper scale comparisons here in a moment. These are a little bit smaller than our normal 156 scale, like 28mm stuff. But it's more like 25mm scale, but it's a little bit bigger than that. So it's like almost like a unique scale in between 25 and 28mm. And I've said before too that I kind of like that with my miniatures. I like having, especially with my human armies, I like having things be a slightly different height. So I think these look really good. I actually think they look slightly more detailed than the new 28mm stuff that they're putting out. Like we looked at their newer Prussians and American War of Independence infantry. And they look fine, but again, I think they're making an even more conscious decision to like rein in the detail to make them as simple to paint as possible. Just a couple of things to attach here. A couple of spears, some like kind of generic Dark Age shield, slightly smaller one there, a light crossbow. So nice mix of weapons here. Actually, I think they would work really well as like Dark Age figures too. Like these guys here just look like Irish or Welsh to me. So maybe I'll bring in some of my Victrix Dark Age stuff too, just to see how they all kitbash. I think these look great. Again, the detail's a little bit softer, certainly in the faces. The heads also look a little bit small, even for like true scale. I'm going to say they're 26.5mm figures. So even as true scale 26.5mm figures, the heads look a little bit small to me, but I think they look cool. Now let's move into 28005 Andalusian Heavy Infantry. So I'll do a shot of the front and back here as well. I didn't mention it on the last one, but all 3 of these have no repeat sculpts on the sprue, which is I think the first time we've seen this from a HaT 28mm set. Normally it'd be like at least one pose repeated twice on a sprue, and then of course you're getting multiple sprues within a box. But in this case, while there are some similarities like in poses, like these 2 guys here, you can see the details are different, which is neat. I also think that's a byproduct of like Napoleonic gamers we've talked about. You guys have like thousands of miniatures in your armies, so you can't be bothered to have a lot of individuality with your figures. But once again, I think these look really good. Again, there's going to be softness in places like the face and the chainmail. I'm curious to see how those paint up. But it's definitely chainmail, like you can see. It's not just cloth. Nice folds here too. If you watched my last painting video that I just did, where I'm experimenting with some slap chop, I think that would look really good here on these folds. Let's look at these shields, because I actually think this is where, again, look at the fine detail on these shields here. That's back to my point about like any softness and detail that you see in a HaT sculpt, I really don't think is due to like a lack of technical ability, because you can see some of the really fine details here that they're able to achieve. I truly believe, I've been communicated this and I believe it, that it's just a conscious choice that they're trying to make these as approachable and easy to deal with as possible, which I think is cool. It's nice to have that kind of option on the market. So these are nice. So it looks like there's half of them in chainmail, maybe 3 out of 5 in chainmail. A shield for everybody. So pretty sweet. And then let's look here at the 28008 Almoravid Light Infantry. So these are going to be like a North African Berber tribe in the area of modern day Morocco. But I guess it could have been like southern Spain as the Moors moved in. Front and back here. This almost seems like a blending of the last 2 sets, right? Once again, small break there, but that's alright. It'll give me an opportunity to do some kit bashing for you. Maybe a different bow arm. Yeah, a couple loose shields, a couple loose spears here, like javelins. Again, these are meant to be light infantry. It looks like this guy here's got an interesting cutout, which I think goes to that piece there. So I'm curious to see how these all go together. Nice mix of attire on these guys too. Makes me immediately think of using these as HaT and Middle Earth strategy battle games, because I think the scale is going to be almost identical. We'll get there, but this is how my mind works as I'm reviewing miniatures. Again, I think they look good. I think that the heads are a little bit small. Again, these are definitely, I'm going to call it my 26.5mm scale. We'll validate that here in a second. And they're definitely a little bit softer in detail of the face in particular. But again, nice folds in the robes. Good mix of armor. There's no repeat poses here, so you're going to get 8 unique poses repeated 4 times over the course of the 4 sprues in the box that you pick up. So there you go. As they sit, they look nice. So let me put them together. I'll see how I can kit bash these together. So I built up 9 of these figures as they're recommended to be built, just straight off the sprue. The first row is the Spanish light infantry. This is the Andalusian heavy infantry, and then the Almoravid light infantry on the very bottom there. And you can see you can blend these together without any issue at all. If you were to pick up all 3 boxes at the same time, I mean, you can like almost blend them up and can't even tell, right? Just because the theme is so similar, and they're all in the same color of plastic, they're all in the exact same scale, so you're not going to have any issue there at all. And truly, again, is the detail a little bit more soft than what you would get from like a Victrix or Wargames Atlantic? Absolutely. Deliberately so, I'll keep repeating that. But they are hard plastic, and I think will paint up quite nicely. I also wanted to bring this in. This is a Lord of the Rings Middle Earth strategy battle game HaT figure I've had in my bits box, and I wanted just to show you how particularly well I think that these scale up with those. So if you're looking for some very reasonably priced Lord of the Rings figures, look no further than this box, because I think they're definitely detailed enough for use within that game system. I also did some conversions here, and I'm going to be real with you guys. Like, sometimes I surprise myself, not with my own talent, but that my own preconceived notion was dispelled. And that is to say that I thought none of these conversions were going to work, but I found most of them did. So here's like an easy one. This is just a shield swap between the Almoravids and the Andalusian heavy infantry. And then I started branching out. So here's an Almoravid with a Wargames Atlantic bow to replace the broken bow. I did find that Wargames Atlantic probably scales the best if you're trying to do any like head or weapon swaps. But for everybody that's been talking about like having all these leftover heads and weapons from the Wargames Atlantic sets, I've got a way to pick up some bodies if you're looking to do that. This, I believe, is a Warlord Games head. And then this is also a shield swap from the Andalusian heavy infantry. This is a light infantry figure here from my little color coding. And I'll work up to my favorite one. This is an Almoravid. So the shield is from the heavy infantry. The scabbard and the javelin there, or spear, are both Victrix. So the Victrix heads are definitely too big. This hand is like definitely large. But I think once you paint it up, have it in a unit, I don't even think you're going to be able to tell. This one's a little shakier. This is a Spanish light infantry figure. The head, I think, is Gripping Beast. Again, I was just rooting through my bits box. Shield is a Victrix early Saxon. And the sword is also Victrix, but I can't remember which one. It might also be an early Saxon. So the head's a little bit big on this one, but that's also particularly owing to the fact that I think the arms are kind of skinny on this guy. But anyway, and here's the one that really shocked me. So this is a Andalusian heavy infantry model. The shield is Victrix, I think, but the weapon and the head are Wargames Atlantic from their Foot Knights. I didn't think this was going to work, and it kind of does. So if you're looking, again, if you're playing like a mass battles game where you need lots and lots and lots of figures and you've got all these leftover bits, I think you can pull off some neat conversions here for cheap. So let's throw them on the lazy Susan and see how these guys properly scale up. Alright, I've got a bunch of manufacturers spinning on the wheel here, and the names of the manufacturers or range that the miniatures belong to are listed in red on those bases. And then of course the cream colored miniatures are from these 3 boxes. Pay attention to the fact that some of these miniatures have those splash bases, some don't. It just really depends. So, I mean, yeah, you can see they're small, right? They're definitely closer to 25 mil than 28 mil. The bigger issue actually is that they're just very true scale, right? Very true scale compared to some of these other manufacturers that have slightly more heroically proportioned extremities. So yeah, like would I blend these in with my Warhammer stuff? No, but I probably would with like some of my old metal sculpts. Like if you've got any old Perry or Gripping Beast stuff, or even like going further back in time, like, again, there are some like 28 mil metal, like even if you've got like some lead figures laying around that are really closer to like 25 mil, that I think they would work just fine. And I keep going back to this, guys, though the price is so right that like it's almost worth like picking a box up just to see like would this scale up with some of the ones. If you have something that you think is close but you're not sure, again, 13, 14 bucks for 32 miniatures to trial it out. Or if it doesn't work out, you've got 32 miniatures that I think would work well like within its own project, right? So what's the final verdict? I am really surprised. I thought that my recommendation at the end was going to be that these are like best to mix in with your 25 millimeter figures. You could certainly do that. I've talked before about how like some older metal 28 millimeter sculpts are really like closer to 25 mil. But also if you have 25 mil, these are just going to be like a little bit big, but I think would blend in just fine. So certainly if you're looking for like a very reasonably priced, like ludicrously reasonably priced plastic option to blend in with some of your old metal collections ranging from 25 to 28 millimeter scale, check these out. But as we've seen, like you could use these to like upscale, or you can use some of your like War Games Atlantic bits to upscale them if you wanted to. I think that you could use these just straight out of the box for middle-load strategy battle games if you wanted to. And the price is so reasonable that yes, you could also like blend these in with your 28 millimeter armies as sort of like your back rankers, as we were talking about in the Napoleonic videos. If you wanted like the more detailed, maybe slightly larger sculpts up front, and then have these guys kind of intermixed in the back, I think that would work just fine. But the price is so affordable, right? That for if you picked up all 3 of these boxes, it's going to run you like $45 US, and you're going to have 96 models, right? So you could start a whole army this way, right? In this kind of unique in-between scale if you wanted to, and it's not going to break the bank. So something to consider here, guys. This is a really great way to very rapidly get an army together and on the table. And as I mentioned, they're going to be very easy to paint, deliberately so. This is also, I've talked before in my other reviews of HaT, that I think that if you're like a parent or a grandparent and you're looking for a way to introduce your kids or your grandkids into wargaming in a way that's not intimidating with some of these like sometimes like 6 and 7 part multi-part plastic sets, and in a way that, you know, it's not going to be a huge investment in case they don't really care, this is another really great option for you to check out. So I got a link down in the description. It's to the main HaT site, but as I said, you're probably going to have to contact your local friendly neighborhood gaming store in order to get some of these picked up. And of course, there's some online options from some other third-party retailers as well. Thank you again to HaT for sending these my way so we could check these out together. Really appreciate it. Thankful for all of you for dropping by for this one in the meantime. And until next time, happy gaming.